You gave the night a full 8 hours, and morning still handed you back that same heavy fog, as if the rest never reached you. There is a name for this, and it isn't a flaw in you. Even behind closed eyes, the brain can keep running in a fast, high-alert rhythm called high beta, the electrical signature of a mind still standing guard. So the real question isn't how long you slept. It's why sleep stopped restoring you, and how that ends. Here is the part that turns everything quiet. You can lie perfectly still for 8 hours and never once drop out of that high-stress state. The body rested. The brain never clocked out. Welcome to Sleepy Science. Tonight is simply about letting that guarded rhythm slow, letting the mind drift down from high beta toward the softer, slower waves, where real repair lives. You don't have to force it. That fast rhythm is already loosening a little, just from lying here, with nothing left to hold. Notice how the next breath arrives on its own, a fraction longer than the last. Let it lengthen. The descent begins on its own, and the first thing worth understanding is what those brain waves actually are. Beneath everything we explore tonight rests one quiet question. Why does a full night of sleep leave you tired? And how does that finally end? We begin where the answer begins, with the faint electrical rhythms your brain is making right now. Your brain is quietly electric, all the time. Billions of nerve cells send tiny signals to one another, and when large groups fire together, they create waves of electrical activity that ripple across the whole brain. Scientists measure these waves in cycles per second, a unit called hertz. A slow wave might rise and fall only once or twice a second. A fast one can flicker dozens of times in that same second. These rhythms never fully stop, not even in the deepest sleep. They only change speed. Tonight, the pace of those waves is the whole story, because the speed of your brain's rhythm is the difference between resting and truly repairing. That is the quiet question we will follow into the dark. There is a machine that can watch these waves without touching your thoughts. It is called an electroencephalogram, or EEG, and it has been listening to the sleeping brain since the 1920s. Small metal sensors rest gently on the scalp, picking up the faint electrical chorus of millions of neurons at once. The signal is smaller than a AA battery by a factor of thousands, yet it is steady enough to read. When researchers first placed these sensors on a sleeping person, they discovered something startling. Sleep was not one flat, silent state. It was a moving landscape of rhythms, rising and falling, in slow tides through the night. That single recording opened the entire science of sleep. Scientists sorted these brain rhythms into families, named with Greek letters, from slowest to fastest. They are delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. Each family lives in its own band of speed, and each tends to show up during a different kind of mental state. Delta is the slow drum of deep sleep. Gamma is the quick shimmer of intense focus. The others fall in between, like notes on a piano, stretching from the lowest key to the high ones. Your brain is never playing just one note. It blends many rhythms at once, with one family usually leading the chorus. Which family leads, at any moment, quietly shapes whether you feel alert, calm, drifting, or fast asleep. Delta waves are the slowest rhythm your brain makes, moving at roughly 1/2 to 4 cycles per second. They are the signature of the deepest, most restorative sleep, the kind that arrives in the first hours of the night. When Delta takes over, your awareness of the outside world nearly vanishes. This is the heavy, dreamless dark, where a hand could brush your shoulder and barely reach you. Breathing slows, muscles loosen, and the body begins its heaviest repair work. This is the stage where growth hormone is released and where the brain does much of its physical housekeeping. Delta is not emptiness. It is the deep, slow tide that healing rides in on. When too little delta appears in a night, morning can feel strangely hollow, as if a chapter of rest was skipped. Theta waves are the next step up, cycling about 4 to 8 times each second. They belong to the drowsy borderland between waking and sleep, and to the lighter stages of sleep itself. When you drift off, feeling your thoughts loosen and float, Theta is usually leading the way. It is that soft, unmoored feeling when a stray image drifts by and you can no longer tell if you are thinking it or dreaming it. It also appears during daydreams, deep relaxation, and quiet, creative wandering. Theta is a gentle rhythm, softer than the sharp focus of waking but livelier than the deep drum of delta. It is the bridge between the busy mind and the resting one. Tonight, as your body settles, your brain is looking for this rhythm, trying to cross that quiet bridge from thinking into sleeping. Alpha waves ripple at roughly 8 to 12 cycles per second, and they mark a calm, relaxed sort of wakefulness. They tend to appear when you close your eyes, but are still awake, resting quietly, without focusing on anything in particular. You may know the feeling as the warm, unhurried ease of lying in bed with your eyes shut, awake, but no longer working at anything. A person meditating, or simply sitting peacefully with eyes shut, often shows strong alpha. It is the rhythm of a mind at ease but still present, not yet asleep. In a healthy wind-down, alpha rises first, a signal that the brain is releasing its grip on the day. From there, it can slide gently into the theta of early sleep. Alpha is the doorway. Passing through it smoothly is part of how good sleep begins. Beta waves are faster still, spanning about 12 to 30 cycles per second, and they are the rhythm of an active, thinking mind. Right now, while you follow these words, your waking brain is producing beta. It is the signature of focus, problem solving, planning, and ordinary alertness. In healthy daytime amounts, beta is exactly what you want. It helps you work, converse, and pay attention. The trouble begins only when beta refuses to fade at night. This rhythm is meant to quiet as darkness falls, handing the night over to slower waves. When it lingers past its welcome, the brain stays switched on. That lingering is the seed of the very tiredness we are here to understand. Within the beta family lives a faster, more intense sub-rhythm that researchers call high beta, generally above about 20 cycles per second. Ordinary beta is the steady hum of a mind at work. High beta is something sharper, the electrical texture of a brain that is worried, vigilant, or bracing for something. It tends to rise with stress, anxiety, and racing thoughts. In small daytime bursts, it is harmless, the part of how we respond to challenge. But high beta is not a nighttime rhythm. When it appears in bed, and worse, when it persists through sleep itself, it signals a mind still standing guard. This particular rhythm sits at the heart of tonight's mystery, and we will return to it again and again. Gamma waves are the fastest rhythm of all, flickering above roughly 30 cycles per second, sometimes far faster. They are linked to moments of intense concentration, sudden insight, and the binding together of different senses into a single experience. Think of the bright snap of a name arriving the instant you need it. That flash has gamma somewhere inside it. When separate parts of the brain need to cooperate in a flash, gamma seems to help stitch them into one seamless perception. These waves are delicate and brief, easily lost in the noise of ordinary recordings. For most of the night, gamma stays quiet and low. It is the sharp, high note of a fully engaged mind, and it belongs to waking far more than to rest. In healthy sleep, the loud, fast end of the spectrum is meant to grow gentle and dim. Here is the pattern already forming in the dark. Healthy sleep is a slow slide down the spectrum of rhythms, from the fast waves of alertness toward the slow tides of delta. The mind is supposed to descend, gear by gear, from beta through alpha and theta, and down into deep, slow rest. When that descent happens smoothly, morning feels clean and light. So the question shifts, just slightly. Perhaps feeling tired after 8 hours is not about how long you were in bed. It may be about which rhythm your brain was actually playing while you lay there. That quiet reframe is where the rest of tonight begins to lead. Sleep is not one single state, but a rising and falling cycle, repeating through the night. Scientists divide it into stages, grouped into two broad kinds: non-REM sleep and REM sleep. Non-REM includes the light early stages and the deep slow delta stage. Heng, which stands for rapid eye movement, is where most vivid dreaming happens, and the brain there looks almost awake. A full cycle through these stages lasts roughly 90 minutes, and a normal night contains 4 or 5 of them. Each stage carries its own brainwave signature. This layered structure, this careful architecture of the night, is what a good sleep quietly builds. When the architecture is broken, hours in bed stop adding up to real rest. Light sleep is the first true stage past wakefulness, and it fills more of the night than most people realize, often around half of it. In this stage, theta waves lead, and the brain shows brief, distinctive bursts of activity called sleep spindles. These little flurries are thought to help protect sleep from being disturbed and to assist the brain in filing away memories. Light sleep is easy to wake from, and you may not even feel you were truly asleep in it. Yet it is far from useless. It is the necessary bridge into deeper stages, the shallow water you must cross to reach the depths. A night stuck only in this shallow layer can leave the morning feeling thin. Deep sleep is the treasure of the early night, ruled by slow delta waves. This is the stage most tied to feeling physically restored, and it is where much of the body's repair takes place. During deep sleep, blood pressure drops, breathing steadies, and the release of growth hormone helps rebuild tissue. It is also notoriously hard to wake from. A person roused out of deep sleep often feels groggy and confused for several minutes. The body tends to schedule most of its deep sleep in the first half of the night, front-loading the heaviest repair. If those early hours are broken by stress or a racing mind, the deepest, most healing rhythm can be quietly stolen from the night. REM sleep is the strange, vivid country where dreaming blooms, and its brainwaves look almost awake. Fast, mixed rhythms appear closer to beta and theta than to slow delta. The eyes dart quickly beneath closed lids, and the body's muscles fall into a temporary, protective paralysis so that dreams are not acted out. REM tends to lengthen in the second half of the night, filling the pre-dawn hours. It is deeply involved in processing emotion and weaving together memories. A healthy night needs both kinds of rest. The slow, physical repair of deep delta sleep, and the emotional, mental sorting of REM. Missing either one can leave a person tired in a different topos, distinct way. So why does 8 full hours sometimes fail to restore you? The first clue is quality, not quantity. 2 people can each spend 8 hours in bed, yet one climbs through healthy cycles of deep and REM sleep, while the other hovers in thin, broken light, sleep all night. Time in bed is only the container. What matters is what rhythms actually filled it. A night crowded with fast waves and starved of slow delta can leave you as tired as a much shorter night. This is the heart of the mystery. The clock on the wall says you slept enough. Your brain's own recording might tell a very different story. There is a specific, well-studied reason mornings can feel so heavy, and it has a name: sleep inertia. It is the grog, foggy state that lingers in the first minutes, sometimes the first half hour after waking. During sleep inertia, thinking is slow, mood can be low, and coordination is not yet sharp. The brain, it turns out, does not switch instantly from sleep to full alertness. Different regions wake at different speeds, and the parts responsible for clear reasoning are among the slowest to come back online. Sleep inertia is usually strongest when you wake abruptly out of deep delta sleep. That heavy, underwater feeling in the first moments of the day is a normal part of the brain rebooting. Sleep inertia hits hardest when an alarm yanks you out of the wrong stage. If you are pulled abruptly from deep delta sleep, the slow rhythm does not vanish at once. For a while, fragments of that slow, sleepy activity linger in the waking brain, blurring your thinking like a signal that hasn't fully tuned in. This is why waking in the middle of deep sleep can leave you groggier than a shorter night that ended in a lighter stage. The body was mid-repair, deep in its slowest gear, when the world suddenly demanded full speed. The mismatch between the brain's rhythm and the day's demand is what that early fog is truly made of. Your body runs on an inner clock, roughly 24 hours long, called the circadian rhythm. Housed deep in the brain, it takes its cues mainly from light and darkness, quietly deciding when you feel sleepy and when you feel alert. This clock shapes far more than sleep. It nudges body temperature up and down, times the release of hormones, and even influence digestion. When the clock and your sleep schedule agree, waking feels natural and gentle. When they clash, as in jet lag or shifting work hours, mornings turn brutal, even after enough hours in bed. Part of why you wake tired may be that your inner clock expected you to still be sleeping, or to have woken long before. Just before a natural waking, your body performs a quiet chemical ritual called the cortisol awakening response. In the last stretch of sleep, and the first minutes after opening your eyes, levels of the hormone cortisol rise sharply. This is not a sign of stress gone wrong. In the right amount, it is helpful. That surge is meant to lift you toward alertness, raise blood sugar for energy, and prepare the body to meet the day. A healthy cortisol rhythm helps you wake feeling clear rather than fogged. But when stress keeps cortisol high all night, or scrambles its timing, this gentle morning lift can turn into a jittery, tired unease instead of clean, natural energy. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone, but it is better understood as the body's daily rhythm keeper. In a well-tuned system, cortisol follows a graceful daily arc. Lowest around the middle of the night, climbing to a peak shortly after waking, then drifting down across the day toward evening rest. This curve helps you feel energized in the morning and sleepy at night. Chronic stress can flatten or distort this curve, keeping cortisol elevated when it should be falling. When cortisol stays high into the night, it becomes very hard for the brain to slow into the deep, slow rhythms of real rest. The hormone meant to wake you can quietly sabotage your sleep. Here is something that unsettles our simple picture of rest. The brain does not fully switch off during sleep. Even in the deepest delta stage, it stays active, monitoring the body, processing the day, and running quiet maintenance. Certain regions keep a low watch on the outside world, ready to rouse you if a sound seems threatening. This is why a parent can sleep through traffic, yet wake at a child's faint cry. Sleep is not a power down. It is a shift into a different mode of activity, one aimed at repair and sorting rather than action. The idea that the sleeping brain goes silent is a myth. It is busy all night, just busy in a very different way. Because the brain never fully powers down, it matters enormously which rhythm it settles into for the night. There is a world of difference between a brain humming along in slow, restorative delta and one still crackling with fast, vigilant high beta. Both are technically active. Only one is truly resting. Imagine a car left running in a driveway all night. The engine turns, fuel burns, but the vehicle goes nowhere and wears itself down. A brain stuck in high beta through the dark is much the same, active and spending energy, yet skipping the deep repair it desperately needs. Activity alone is not rest. The kind of activity is what decides whether morning feels renewed or depleted. Scientists describe a particular state where the body is exhausted while the mind stays racing. It is sometimes called being tired but wired. In this state, you feel bone-deep fatigue, yet your thoughts will not slow and sleep will not come. On an age, this often looks like the fast waves of alertness, stubbornly refusing to fade, even as the body pleads for rest. The stress response system stays switched on, cortisol and other signals, keeping the brain in a state of readiness. Many people know this feeling well. Lying in the dark, physically worn out, mentally sprinting. It is one of the clearest, most human signatures of a brain caught in the wrong rhythm at the worst possible time. The tired but wired state points to a deeper truth about the nervous system. It has two broad settings. One that revs the body up for action, and one that calms it down for rest and repair. The first is often called the sympathetic branch, the source of fight or flight energy. The second is the parasympathetic branch, sometimes called rest and digest. Good sleep depends on the calming branch taking the lead as night falls. But under chronic stress, the revving branch can stay dominant well past bedtime, flooding the brain with alerting signals. High beta waves are, in a sense, the electrical face of that revved-up branch refusing to hand over the night. The imbalance keeps repair locked just out of reach. 24 small windows into the sleeping brain, and a single shape is rising through them. Rest is not measured by hours on a clock, but by rhythm, by whether the mind can slow from the fast waves of vigilance into the deep, slow tides where repair actually lives. The question we opened has quietly turned. It is no longer only why you wake tired after 8 hours. It is what keeps the guarded, fast rhythm from ever letting go once the lights are out. We have named the waves and met the stress that holds them fast. What we have not yet traced is exactly how that vigilant rhythm digs in and refuses to release. And that is where the next stretch of the night begins. The first part of our journey ends here. Your breath has carried you this far. A soft subscribe helps more restless souls find this space. Now, let's rest for a moment, one sleepy soul at a time. That fast, guarded rhythm you just heard named the high beta, still crackling in a mind that will not stand down, is not only something on a screen. It is a texture you can feel in a jaw that stays a little tight, in thoughts that circle when the room has gone quiet. You don't have to chase it out. Notice, instead, that the circling has already loosened a fraction just from lying here with nothing left to fix. The chemistry that keeps the mind on guard has a natural flaw, and your body has been drifting toward it since you lay down. Let the next breath fall on its own. The slowing you've been reading about is already beginning in you, and from here, we follow how that guarded rhythm finally learns to let the night go. The reason your brain can stay in that fast rhythm all night comes down to a chemical alarm system. When your mind senses pressure, even the low, background kind, a small region called the hypothalamus signals your adrenal glands to release stress hormones. The main one is cortisol. During calm evenings, cortisol should be near its lowest point, giving the brain permission to slow down. But in a mind that never fully stands down, cortisol stays slightly elevated into the night. It keeps neurons firing quickly, holding you in that alert, high beta state. The alarm was meant to protect you. It simply forgot how to switch itself off once the danger passed. Cortisol follows a daily curve, rising and falling on a schedule your body has kept for millions of years. Normally, it peaks about 30 minutes after you wake, giving you the energy to begin the day, then drifts steadily downward until it reaches its floor around midnight. Sleep restoration depends on that floor. When cortisol arrives on time and drops low enough, the brain can finally release its grip on wakefulness. But chronic pressure flattens the curve. The morning peak weakens, the nighttime floor never sinks, and the whole rhythm blurs. You end up tired in the morning and wired at night, the exact reversal of what the curve was built to give you. There is a second chemical working the opposite way, and it decides how sleepy you truly feel. It's called adenosine. All day, as your brain cells burn energy, adenosine builds up like sediment settling in still water. The more it accumulates, the heavier your eyelids grow. This is your natural sleep pressure, the gentle weight that should pull you under at night. Deep sleep is when the brain finally clears it away, resetting the gauge to empty. But if your nights stay shallow, adenosine is never fully swept out. You wake with yesterday's residue still in the system, which is part of why 8 hours can still leave you feeling like you barely rested at all. Your nervous system has 2 settings, and they work like a gas pedal and a brake. The gas pedal is the sympathetic branch. It speeds the heart, sharpens focus, and readies you for action. The brake is the parasympathetic branch, which slows everything down and invites rest. Healthy sleep needs the brake firmly pressed. But in a stressed mind, the gas pedal stays lightly depressed, even in darkness, keeping the body idling in readiness. This is the quiet engine behind high beta at night. Nothing loud is happening. No crisis. No threat. Yet the system behaves as though one might arrive at any moment. And so, it refuses to fully let go. Sleep researchers have a precise name for this pattern: Hyperarousal. It describes a brain and body that remain overactivated when they should be winding down. People with hyperarousal often sleep the full night, yet report feeling as if they never slept at all. Studies using brain imaging find their minds burn more glucose during sleep than calmer sleepers do, for the organ meant to be resting is quietly working overtime. Hyperarousal is now considered a core feature of insomnia that persists over time. It explains a strange truth. The problem is not always the amount of sleep, but the intensity the brain carries into it, hour after hour, never quite powering down. Caffeine keeps that fast rhythm alive through a clever bit of chemical mimicry. Remember adenosine, the molecule that builds sleep pressure. Through the day, caffeine is shaped just enough like it to slip into the same docking sites on your neurons. But instead of signaling tiredness, it blocks the signal entirely. The brain stops receiving the message that it is tired, even as adenosine keeps piling up behind the blockade. This is why an afternoon coffee can quietly haunt your night. Caffeine's effects can linger for many hours, holding the brain in a more alert band and making it harder to descend into the slower waves where genuine restoration finally begins. Screens work on a different lever, but they push toward the same wakeful state. The bright, bluish light from phones and tablets reaches special cells in your eyes that don't help you see. They simply report how bright the world is. To the brain, that glow reads as daylight. In response, it delays the release of melatonin, the hormone that tells the body night has arrived. Without that signal, the the mind stays a step behind its own clock, lingering in a more alert rhythm when it should be softening. The content matters too. An engaging feed keeps thoughts active and fast, feeding the very high beta pattern you're trying to leave behind as you lie down. Then there is rumination, the mind replaying worries in a loop, and it may be the most powerful arousal engine of all. When you turn a problem over and over in the dark, the thinking regions of the brain stay lit and busy. Each anxious loop nudges the stress system, releasing another small pulse of cortisol, which sharpens alertness, which fuels more thinking. It becomes a circle that feeds itself. This is why the body can feel exhausted while the mind refuses to quiet. The muscles have surrendered to the bed, but the internal narrator keeps talking, and every sentence keeps a thin current of high beta running softly beneath the surface of the night. Sleep is not one flat state. It moves in cycles, like tides rolling in and out across the night. Each cycle lasts roughly 90 minutes and carries you through several stages, from light sleep down into deep sleep and up into dreaming REM, then around again. A full night holds 4 or 5 of these cycles. Early cycles are rich in deep, restorative sleep. Later ones lean toward dreaming. This architecture is delicate. When arousal keeps interrupting it, the cycles fragment, and you spend more time in the shallows than in the depths. You may never fully wake, yet the night's careful structure quietly comes apart beneath you, one broken cycle at a time. The deepest stage has a fitting name: slow wave sleep, marked by the vast, unhurried delta waves that are the near opposite of high beta. Where beta is fast and jagged, delta is slow and rolling, the calmest rhythm the sleeping brain produces. This is where the body does its heaviest repair, releasing growth hormone, rebuilding tissue, and strengthening the immune system. It is, in a real sense, the flaw of the night, the place restoration lives. A stressed brain, held high in the faster bands, struggles to sink this far. And if you rarely reach delta, you can sleep the clock around and still surface in the morning, feeling strangely unmended. Something remarkable happens during that deep, slow wave stage. The brain cleans itself. A network of channels called the glymphatic system opens wider as you sink into delta, letting fluid wash through the spaces between brain cells. It flushes out the metabolic waste that collects during a day of thinking, including the leftover adenosine and other byproducts of a busy mind. This nightly rinse is one of the reasons deep sleep leaves you feeling clear-headed. But the system works best in the deepest, calmest sleep. When arousal keeps you in shallower water, the cleaning slows, and the residue of yesterday lingers into today, blurring the edges of how you think and feel. There is a simple, measurable signal that reveals whether your brake is working: heart rate variability, or HRV. It's the tiny, natural variation in the time between one heartbeat and the next. A relaxed, well-braked nervous system produces high variability. The intervals flex and breathe with each inhale and exhale. A stressed, over-aroused system produces a stiffer, more monotonous beat. During restful sleep, HRV normally rises as the parasympathetic brake takes hold. In hyperarousal, it stays low through the night, a quiet electrical fingerprint of a body that never truly stood down. Your own heartbeat, in its rhythm, is keeping an honest record of how deeply you were able to let go. The good news hidden in all of this is that the brake can be strengthened, and the body already knows how to press it. The vagus nerve, a long wandering pathway from brainstem to gut, is the main cable of the parasympathetic system, the physical brake line itself. It responds to something you carry with you always: your breath. A slow, extended exhale sends a signal up the vagus nerve that tells the heart to ease and the system to settle. This is why lengthening the out-breath can lower arousal within minutes. The switch you have been searching for all night is not hidden in the dark. It is threaded quietly through your own breathing. Notice, too, that none of these systems demand your effort. They are built to run the moment you stop interfering. Melatonin rises on its own once the light dims. Cortisol falls on its own once the alarm stops sounding. Adenosine does its clearing on its own once you reach the depths. The parasympathetic brake engages on its own the instant the mind stops feeding it reasons to stay alert. Restoration was never a task you had to perform. It is a process already prepared inside you, waiting only for you to loosen your grip. The work of the night, it turns out, is mostly the work of allowing. So the reason a full night can still leave you tired comes into focus now. It was never really about the hours. It was about the state you carried into them. A nervous system idling in readiness. A chemical alarm slow to quiet. A brain held just high enough in the faster bands to skim the surface of sleep instead of sinking into its depths. The tiredness is not proof that rest failed you. It is a message that the descent never fully happened. And a descent, unlike a duty, cannot be forced. It can only be permitted, which is exactly what the rest of this night is for. The engine in you has finally begun to idle down, the breath a little longer than it was, the pull toward action, quietly releasing. Let this next exhale stretch, and feel the pause at the end of it. Somewhere in that pause, the brake is pressing on its own. We're drifting together through the slow chemistry of letting go, in no hurry to arrive. We'll keep going, gently. No two brains sleep exactly the same way. When researchers record the electrical rhythm of many sleepers on the same quiet night, the traces look as different as handwriting. Some people slide into slow, restful waves within minutes. Others carry a faster, more alert rhythm, well past the point where the body has already gone still. This individual variation is not a defect. It comes from genetics, age, daily stress, and even the shape of a person's skull. So the very same 8 hours can leave one person clear and another person foggy. The number on the clock was never the whole story. The rhythm underneath it always was. This is why two people can share the exact same bedtime and wake up in completely different worlds. One rises rested. The other rises hollow, as if the night simply passed over them. The difference often lives in how quickly the brain lets go of its fast, guarded waves. A mind that stays in that high-alert rhythm longer spends less of the night in the slow, restoring depths. The hours were equal. The quality was not. Understanding this gently removes the blame so many tired people carry, the quiet sense that they are somehow doing sleep wrong. You are not failing at rest. Your brain is simply keeping a different pace. Some people wake tired night after night despite doing everything right. They keep a steady bedtime, darken the room, and still surface unrefreshed. For a long time, this seemed like a mystery, or worse, a personal weakness. But the electrical record tells a calmer truth. In these sleepers, the fast waves of wakefulness keep flickering through the deeper stages, like a light that never fully dims. The body lies down, yet the brain keeps a thin thread of vigilance running all night. This is sometimes called a hyperaroused nervous system. It is not laziness, and it is not imagination. It is a measurable pattern, quietly shaping how morning feels. Your wrist tracker is doing its honest best, but it cannot truly see your brainwaves. Those glowing sleep scores are estimates, built mostly from movement and heart rate. A device on your wrist notices when your body goes still and when your pulse slows. Then it guesses at the stages from there. But the real language of sleep is written in electrical waves across the surface of the brain, and only sensors on the scalp can read that directly. So a tracker may score a night as deep and restful, while the mind above stays faster and more alert than the numbers suggest. The gadget measures the quiet body. It cannot fully measure the guarded brain. This gap matters more than it seems, especially for tired people chasing better numbers. Someone may wake exhausted, glance at a high sleep score, and feel confused or even ashamed, as if their own fatigue were imaginary. But the score only saw a still body and a slow heartbeat. It never saw the fast waves threading through the night. The lesson is a gentle one. How you feel in the morning is more honest than any number a device can offer. Trust the fog or the clarity you actually wake into. The body's stillness is real, yet it was never the same thing as a truly quiet mind. Falling asleep is not a switch. It is a slow descent through changing rhythms. In the last waking moments, the brain hums in beta, The fast, busy rhythm of a mind that is thinking, planning, and watching the world. As the eyes close and attention loosens, that rhythm begins to slow into alpha, a calmer, more open state that feels like drifting without effort. Only after alpha settles does the brain sink further, toward the slower theta waves that open the door to true sleep. Each stage is a little slower, a little softer than the one before. Sleep arrives, not by force, but by gradually letting the pace fall. That first shift, from busy beta into gentle alpha, is quietly one of the quiet turning points of the whole night. Alpha is the rhythm of rest with the light still on inside, the state of a mind that has stopped gripping but has not yet let go. You have likely felt it in the soft blur just before sleep, when thoughts loosen and time seems to smear. This alpha stage is the natural threshold, the calm shoreline the brain must reach before it can wade into deeper water. Without crossing into alpha, the mind cannot fall further. It is the first true loosening of the day's tight, waking hold. Scientists often describe alpha as a bridge, and the image fits with quiet precision. On one side stands the fast, alert world of beta and high beta, full of thought and vigilance. On the other side lie the slow, healing depths of theta and beyond, where the body finally repairs. Alpha is the crossing between them, the calm span the mind must walk to get from guarding to resting. When that bridge opens easily, sleep flows across it without struggle. When it stays closed, the mind is left stranded on the busy shore, still awake in every way that matters, no matter how heavy the eyelids feel. And here is why some nights the bridge simply will not open. A racing mind keeps the brain locked in fast beta and high beta waves, and those fast rhythms physically crowd out the calmer alpha state. Worry, replayed conversations, tomorrow's list. Each spinning thought feeds the very rhythm that blocks the crossing. You cannot force your way into alpha through effort, because effort itself is a beta activity. This is the quiet trap so many tired people fall into. Trying harder to sleep only strengthens the wakeful waves. The bridge opens not by pushing, but by letting the grip loosen until the fast rhythm has nothing left to hold. So the whole picture begins to turn here. We started by asking why a full night can still leave you tired, and the answer was never really about hours. It is about whether the mind ever crosses that alpha bridge into slow, restoring waves, or stays stranded in a fast, guarded rhythm that no clock can see. The tiredness you carry is not a personal failure. It is a bridge that did not open. And that reframes everything still ahead. The rest of tonight is not about sleeping harder. It is about learning how the mind lets that bridge quietly swing open on its own. What just settled into place? That the tiredness was never about hours, but about a bridge that would not open. may be something you have felt for years, without a name for it. Notice, right now, that you are not being asked to cross anything by force. The harder you reach for alpha, the faster the rhythm that blocks it. So there is nothing here to push toward. Feel where you might still be bracing. The jaw, the shoulders, the shallow top of the breath, and let that bracing be a little less. The fast rhythm needs your grip to stay lit. As the grip loosens, it dims on its own. The rest of the night follows exactly this. Not the effort of sleeping, but the quiet letting go that lets the bridge swing open. Feel the next breath fall a little lower into you, unforced. That loosening is the crossing already beginning. There is a simple way to speak to your nervous system without words, and it lives in your out-breath. When you exhale slowly, sensors in your lungs and heart send a signal up the vagus nerve, the long wandering nerve that connects the brain to the body. That signal tells the brainstem the coast is clear, and the brain answers by easing its fast, guarded rhythm towards something slower. Breathing in gently raises alertness. Breathing out gently lowers it. So a longer exhale than inhale tips the whole system toward calm. You are not forcing sleep here. You are quietly telling the guard he can sit down. The pace of your breath sets the pace of your brain, and there is a rate that seems to soothe almost everyone. Researchers keep returning to roughly 6 breaths a minute, close to a 5 count in and a 5 count out. At this slow rhythm, the heart and breath begin to move together in a smooth wave, and the vagus nerve carries that steadiness upward. The mind, which had been humming in high beta, starts to find a gentler frequency. You do not have to count all night. A few slow rounds are often enough to open the door, and then the breath can wander on its own. High vagal tone is a quiet kind of strength, and slow breathing helps build it. Vagal tone simply means how well that calming nerve can put the brakes on a racing system. People with higher vagal tone tend to settle faster after stress and drift into sleep more easily. Every slow, gentle exhale is like a small repetition at a gym you cannot see, nudging that braking system to grow more responsive over time. This is why a nightly wind-down works better than an occasional one. The nervous system learns the signal. It begins to expect the calm, and it arrives a little sooner each night. Your muscles can carry tension you never agreed to hold, and letting go of it changes the whole brain. In progressive relaxation, you gently tense one muscle group, then release it, moving slowly from your feet up to your face. The releasing is the real medicine. As each muscle softens, the stretch sensors inside it quiet down, and fewer alarm signals travel up to the brain. With less incoming alarm, the brain has less reason to stay in its high alert rhythm. Bit by bit, the body reports that it is safe. And a brain that keeps hearing safe has permission, at last, to slow down. There is a two-way conversation between body and mind, and you can start it from either end. A tense body keeps the brain alert, and an alert brain keeps the body tense, each feeding the other in a loop that can hold you awake. But the loop runs both directions. When you deliberately soften your jaw, your shoulders, your hands, the brain notices the drop in tension and lowers its guard in response. You do not have to talk yourself calm. You can simply let the body go heavy and let the mind follow. Sometimes, the shortest path to a quiet mind runs straight through a loosened body. Light is a language your brain has spoken for millions of years, and dimming it early tells an ancient story. Deep in the brain sits a small timekeeper that watches the light coming through your eyes. When evening light fades, the timekeeper allows a hormone called melatonin to rise. The body's gentle signal that night has come. Bright light after sunset delays that rise and keeps the brain in daytime mode. So lowering the lights before bed is not just cozy. It is a message written in the one language your inner clock never forgot. And the answer it gives back is drowsiness. Not all light carries the same weight, and the blue in it speaks loudest. The light-sensing cells that set your inner clock are especially tuned to blue wavelengths, the kind that pours from bright screens and cool white bulbs. To your brain, that blue reads as midday sky, and midday is no time to make melatonin. Warm, dim, amber light carries far less of that signal. So, shifting your evening toward warmer, softer light, or dimming screens as the hour grows late, quietly lifts the block on melatonin. The brain stops being told it is noon, and the slow chemistry of night is finally allowed to begin. Your body cools itself to fall asleep, and you can help it along. In the hours before sleep, your core temperature naturally begins to drop, and that small internal cooling is one of the strongest triggers for drowsiness. The brain reads a falling core temperature as a sign that rest is near. A warm bath or shower before bed seems backward, but it works by drawing blood to the skin, and as that warmth radiates away afterward, your core temperature falls faster than it would have. A slightly cool bedroom does the same from the outside. The descent into sleep is, in part, a gentle descent in degrees. The order of temperature matters as much as the numbers, and the body listens for a particular shape. Warm first, then cool. That rising then falling curve is the signal the brain associates with the approach of night, echoing the way the world warms in the day and cools after dusk. When you warm your hands and feet, blood vessels near the skin open and release heat, and the core cools behind them. This is why cold feet can keep you awake, while warmed feet help you drift off. The path to a cooler core runs, strangely, through warmer edges, and the brain reads that whole arc as an invitation. Your brain loves a rhythm it can predict, and a consistent wind-down becomes its own sleeping pill. when you repeat the same gentle sequence each night, dimming the lights, slowing the breath, softening the body. The brain begins to link that sequence with the coming of sleep. Over time, simply starting the ritual triggers the slowing on its own, before you have done anything else. This is learning, plain and quiet. The nervous system is prediction machinery, always guessing what comes next, and you can teach it that this particular calm reliably ends in rest. Repetition turns effort into reflex until the wind down almost runs itself. Every evening, you are either feeding the guarded rhythm or starving it, and the choice hides in small habits. Bright screens, tense arguments, late scrolling, and racing plans all pour fuel on high beta, keeping the brain sharp when it wants to soften. Removing those triggers is not about strict rules. It is about noticing what keeps lighting the alarm and gently setting it down before bed. A calmer evening leaves the brain with less to guard against, so its fast rhythm has nothing to hold on to. You do not have to add more relaxation techniques if you simply stop handing the mind reasons to stay awake. Caffeine can shape your night hours after you have forgotten it, because of how it works and how long it lingers. It blocks the molecule that builds up all day to make you sleepy, essentially hiding your own tiredness from you. The catch is timing. It can take 5 to 6 hours to clear just half of a dose, so an afternoon coffee may still be circulating at bedtime, quietly keeping the brain alert. Moving caffeine earlier in the day lets that natural sleepiness surface again by night. You are not removing your tiredness. You are simply stopping the block that was holding it out of reach. Alcohol may feel like it helps you fall asleep, but it quietly steals the deep part of the night. A drink can bring drowsiness at first by dampening the nervous system, yet as the body breaks it down over the following hours, it fragments sleep and suppresses the deepest, most restorative stages. The night becomes lighter, more broken, and less repairing, even if you never fully wake. This is one reason a person can spend 8 hours in bed and still surface tired. Giving the evening distance from alcohol lets the deep stages return to their full depth, and in that depth, real restoration waits. When the slowing finally works, your brain drops into its deepest gear, the slow-wave sleep it could never reach while standing guard. Here, the whole system quiets in unison. Breathing steadies, heart rate falls, and the brain enters its deepest state for repair. The tall, unhurried delta waves roll across a mind that has finally stopped watching the door. This is the very territory the guarded night could never reach, and arriving in it feels less like effort and more like relief. Everything you have done to slow the breath and soften the body has been a quiet way of coaxing yourself here, into these long, slow waves where the night finally holds you. Underneath every technique tonight, one quiet answer has been forming. You were never tired because you slept too little. You were tired because the brain never fully let go of its guard, and every slow breath, every dimmed light, every softened muscle has been a way of coaxing that guard to stand down. The question we opened, why a full night still leaves you tired, is turning into something you can act on. It is not more hours you need. It is a deeper descent within them. And that descent is exactly what these small, gentle signals make possible. Deep sleep runs a nightly cleaning service in the brain, and it only opens for business once you are fully under. During slow-wave sleep, the spaces between brain cells widen, and a gentle tide of fluid washes through, carrying away the waste that builds up during a busy waking day. Scientists call this the glymphatic system, a kind of plumbing that clears the debris ordinary thinking leaves behind. This washing happens far more powerfully in deep sleep than in wakefulness. So a night stuck in high beta skips the deep clean, and the leftover fog you feel by morning may be, quite literally, waste that was never washed away. The clearing that happens in deep sleep is one reason mornings can feel foggy or clear, and it explains so much. When the brain reaches its deepest slow waves, the cleaning tide moves at full strength, sweeping the corridors between neurons. When those waves never fully arrive, the sweep is faint, and the residue of the day lingers into the next. This is part of why a shallow, guarded night leaves the mind slow and heavy, no matter its length. The remedy is not a longer stay in bed, but a deeper reach into slow-wave sleep, where the cleaning finally runs the way it was designed to run. Deep sleep does not only clean the brain, it rebuilds the body, quietly and on a schedule. In the deepest stage of the night, the body releases much of its growth hormone, the messenger that repairs tissue, mends muscle, and restores worn systems. Miss that deep stage, and you miss much of the night's repair, even after long hours in bed. This is why restoration is about depth, not just duration. The body has a workshop that opens only in slow-wave sleep, and the guarded, high-beta night keeps the door shut. Reaching delta is how you finally let the repair crew inside to do its work. Two quiet compounds help set the stage for calm, and they work in gentle, ordinary ways. Magnesium helps the nervous system's braking chemistry work smoothly. When it runs low, sleep tends to turn lighter and more easily broken, waking you at sounds you would otherwise sleep through. Glycine, a simple amino acid, appears to lower core body temperature slightly, easing the same cooling that ushers in drowsiness. These are not switches you flip so much as background conditions, the raw materials the nervous system draws on to soften. Sometimes calm is not only a mood. It is a matter of the body having what it needs to let the guard come down. A calmer nervous system does not just help you fall asleep, it makes the sleep itself deeper. When the body enters the night already settled, with a slow breath and a low guard, the brain slips more easily into slow-wave sleep and stays there longer. Bout d'arrive tense, still humming in high beta, and the descent stalls in the shallows. This is the hidden link between your evening and your depth. The state you carry into sleep shapes how far down you can go. So the quiet you build before bed is not wasted time. It is what allows the real repair to happen at all. Your nervous system has two settings, and sleep belongs to only one of them. One branch readies you for action, quickening the heart and sharpening the mind. The other branch, carried largely by the vagus nerve, slows things down and turns the body toward rest and repair. High beta sleep is the first branch refusing to hand over the night. Everything gentle you do, the long exhale, the dimmed room, the loosened jaw, tips the balance toward the second branch. You are not fighting sleep into place. You are shifting which branch holds the wheel, and the resting branch, once in charge, knows the way down on its own. Trying hard to sleep is its own kind of alarm, and letting go of the effort is part of the cure. The moment you strain to fall asleep, you engage the very alert systems that keep the brain in high beta, watching, measuring, waiting. Sleep is one of the few things that arrives only when you stop reaching for it. This is why the gentlest approaches work best. They give the mind something soft to rest on, a slow breath, a warm heaviness, so that effort has somewhere to dissolve. You are not performing sleep tonight. You are only removing what stood in its way. All the small signals of the night speak the same language, and the brain has been listening all along. The slow exhale, the falling temperature, the fading light, the loosening muscle, each whispers the same message. It is safe now. You can let down the guard. No single signal does the work alone. Together, they form a chorus. The nervous system cannot help but answer, tipping it out of its high alert rhythm and toward the long, slow waves of repair. You do not have to master any one of them. You only have to let enough of them gather, and the descent begins to move on its own. The slowing you have been reading about is already loosening its grip inside you right now. Somewhere behind your eyes, the fast rhythm that stood guard is thinning, not because you commanded it, but because you stopped feeding it. The falling temperature in your hands, the lengthening breath, the weight settling into the bed, these are not techniques anymore. They are simply happening. What has been gathering, fact by fact, is a single quiet truth. The guard was never you, and it was never meant to stay. You can let the last of the holding go. The descent knows the way from here, and it asks nothing more of you than to be allowed. Consistency, more than intensity, is what deepens sleep over the weeks, and this is oddly reassuring. You do not need a perfect ritual or the ideal room. You need a gentle one you can repeat. Each calm evening teaches the nervous system that night means safety, and the descent into deep sleep grows smoother, the more often it is practiced. A single good night helps. A steady rhythm of them rebuilds the whole pattern. This is slow work, but the kind that lasts, because you are not chasing one deep sleep. You are teaching your brain, night after night, how to let go. Here is what the whole night has been quietly showing, piece by piece. You can lie perfectly still, eyes closed, for 8 full hours, and if the brain stays locked in its high beta guard, you will wake as tired as you lay down. The exhaustion was never about the length of your sleep. It was about a mind that never clocked out. And the way out is not to demand more hours, but to send the body enough small, honest signals of safety that the guard finally lowers, letting the brain sink from that fast, watchful rhythm into the slow, deep waves where you are, at last, restored. None of what follows is a demand. A wind-down routine is not a luxury. It is simply a signal. When you dim the lights, lower your voice, and slow your hands an hour before bed, you tell the brain that the day is closing. High beta waves, the fast rhythm of problem-solving, begin to loosen their grip. The brain reads these small, repeated cues the way you read a familiar road home. It does not need force. It only needs the same gentle signs, offered softly, night after night. Light is the loudest message your brain receives at night. Bright screens and overhead bulbs whisper a false noon into your eyes, and the fast, alert rhythm rises to meet it. When you soften the light, the opposite happens. The visual system relaxes, and the brain lets its waves grow longer and slower. A dim room is not just cozy. It is a quiet instruction, telling the mind that the sky has gone dark and the work of the day is finally done. Warmth helps the mind slow down in a quiet, roundabout way. When you take a warm bath before bed, blood rises to the surface of your skin. As you step out, your core temperature gently falls, and that small drop is one of the body's own cues for sleep. The fast waves ease as the body cools inward. It is a quiet handoff from the heat of the day to the coolness of rest, and the brain follows the temperature down towards stillness. Slow breathing speaks a language the nervous system understands. When you let each out-breath grow a little longer than the in-breath, the vagus nerve carries a message of safety through the body. The heart slows. The alert rhythm softens. You do not have to breathe perfectly. You only have to let the exhale stretch, again and again, until the breath itself becomes the thing that carries you down, gentle as a tide pulling back from the shore. Consistency is quieter than any single trick, and far more powerful. When you sleep and wake at close to the same time each day, your inner clock learns the rhythm and prepares for rest before you ask. The fast waves begin to fade a little earlier, night after night, because the body already expects the dark. One good night is a gift, but a steady pattern is a promise the brain can lean on, and it rewards that trust with deeper, easier sleep. The effect of a routine compounds the way small savings grow over time. The first night of a calmer evening may feel like little has changed, but the brain is learning. Each repetition strengthens the path from waking alertness towards slow, restful waves. After a week, the descent comes sooner. After a month, it can feel almost automatic. You are not fixing sleep in a single night. You are teaching a rhythm, one quiet evening laid gently on the last. Caffeine lingers far longer than most people expect. Half of the caffeine in an afternoon cup can still be circulating 6 hours later, quietly holding the alert rhythm in place. It blocks the very signal that tells the brain it is tired. When you move your last cup earlier in the day, you give that signal room to build. By night, the pressure to sleep can rise on its own, and the fast waves have far less to hold on to. The bed itself can become a signal. When you use it only for sleep, the brain learns to link that soft space with rest, and the alert rhythm begins to fade the moment you lie down. But when you work, worry, or scroll in bed, the mind learns a different lesson. It stays partly awake there. Protecting the bed as a place for sleep alone is a small act, yet it teaches the brain exactly where stillness is allowed to begin. When sleep does not come, the kindest move is often to rise. Lying awake and straining only feeds the fast waves, wrapping frustration around the very stillness you long for. Instead, leaving the bed for a while, sitting in dim light, doing something quiet, lets the pressure to sleep rebuild without struggle. Then you return, softer than before. The brain rests more easily when the bed stays a place of ease, and not a place where you fought to fall asleep. The morning after a protected night feels different in the body. When deep, slow-wave sleep runs its full course, the brain has cleared its waste, steadied its chemistry, and restored its balance. You wake without the heavy fog that follows a restless night. The alert rhythm rises cleanly, the way it is meant to, sharp for the day and quiet for the night. That clear morning is not luck. It is the visible reward of hours when the slow waves were allowed to finish. Deep sleep is where the brain does its deepest cleaning, and you can feel the difference in the morning it leaves behind. A night rich in slow waves has a texture all its own. The mind wakes rinsed and clear, the thoughts arriving unclouded, the fog of a restless night simply absent. That clarity is the glymphatic system's work made visible, the debris of the day carried off while you slept. When the fast rhythm keeps the brain shallow, that cleaning is cut short, and the haze lingers into the day. Protecting deep sleep is not only about rest. It is about waking into a mind that feels genuinely clean. Rough nights will still come, and that is part of being human. No routine makes every night perfect, and expecting perfection only adds a new worry to carry into the dark. One hard night does not erase the pattern you have built. The brain is forgiving. It returns to its rhythm when given the chance. Meeting a restless night with softness, rather than blame, keeps the fast waves from rising higher, and lets the next night begin from a gentler place. Self-compassion is not soft in the way that means weak. Studies of stress and sleep show that people who meet their own tiredness with kindness fall asleep more easily than those who scold themselves for lying awake. Blame raises the alert rhythm. Gentleness lowers it. When you speak to yourself the way you would speak to a tired friend, the nervous system hears the calm in it. Kindness, offered inward, becomes one more quiet path towards slower waves. The body already knows how to sleep. Long before any advice, before any routine, the machinery of rest was built into you. The slow waves, the deep repair, the descent into delta, all wait beneath the surface. Ready. You do not have to create sleep. You only have to stop standing in its way, to remove the noise and the light and the strain, and let the quiet conditions gather. Given the right dark and the right stillness, the body finds its own way down. Here is what the night has been showing, piece by piece. The tiredness that follows a full night of sleep was never a sign that your body had failed you. It was a sign that the fast, waking rhythm never fully let go, that the brain stayed half at work behind closed eyes. And the answer was never to try harder. It was to build the conditions, gently and repeatedly, in which the brain is finally allowed to slow itself down. Trying to force sleep is like trying to grip water. The harder you clench, the more it slips away, because effort itself keeps the alert rhythm alive. Sleep is not something you seize. It is something you allow. The mind that stops chasing rest is the mind that finds it. When you let go of the outcome, when you stop measuring how close you are, the fast waves lose their fuel, and the slow ones rise on their own, unhurried and unforced. Acceptance changes the chemistry of the night. When you stop fighting a wakeful moment and simply let it be, the stress signals quiet, and the alert rhythm has nothing left to hold. Even wakefulness, met without resistance, softens toward rest. There is nothing you need to do in this moment but let it pass through you. The brain slows most easily, not when you push it, but when you finally give it permission to be exactly where it is. Small rituals carry more weight than they seem to. A cup of warm, caffeine-free tea, a page of a familiar book, the same soft song each night. These are not magic. They are anchors. The brain links them. Over time, with the coming of rest, and the alert rhythm begins to fade at the first sign of them. You are building a bridge out of tiny, repeated moments. A bridge the mind can cross without effort, from the noise of the day into the quiet of sleep. The nervous system trusts patterns more than promises. You cannot talk yourself into calm, but you can show your body calm, again and again, until it believes you. Each slow evening, each dim room, each unhurried breath is evidence the brain collects. Over time, that evidence becomes expectation, and expectation becomes ease. The fast rhythm gives way not because you commanded it, but because you proved, night after night, that the dark is safe and rest is allowed. Rest is not earned. It is not a reward you must deserve by finishing every task. The body needs sleep the way it needs breath, without condition and without proof. The belief that you must earn your rest is one more voice that keeps the alert rhythm awake. When you set that belief down, when you let rest be simply yours, the brain has one less reason to stay on guard, and the slow waves are free to rise. The descent into sleep is a letting go, not a doing. Watch how it happens on an easy night. You do not decide to fall asleep. At some point, without noticing, you simply are asleep, carried across a threshold you never saw. That crossing belongs to the slow waves, and they arrive only when the mind stops watching for them. Sleep is the one place you reach by no longer trying to arrive. You loosen your hold, and the dark quietly takes the rest. Every calm night makes the next one easier. The brain remembers the paths it has traveled, and a path taken often becomes a path taken smoothly. Each descent from the fast rhythm into slow waves wears the way a little more open. This is why the work of good sleep is never wasted. Even the imperfect nights are teaching the mind its way home. You are not starting over each evening. You are following a road you have quietly been carving all along. The tiredness that brought you here can end. Not through struggle, not through the perfect routine, but through the slow return of trust between you and your own rest. When the conditions are gentle and the mind stops forcing, the brain does what it has always known how to do. It slows, it cleans, it repairs, and it lets you wake clear. The fatigue was never permanent. It was only the sign of a rhythm waiting to be allowed back down. Somewhere in the quiet of tonight, your brain is already trying to slow itself. The fast waves are looking for a reason to fade, and every soft signal you offer gives them one. You do not have to feel it happening. The slowing works beneath awareness, in the dark spaces between thoughts. All that is asked of you now is to stop adding to the noise, to let the room stay dim and the breath stay long, and to trust the descent that is already beginning. So the answer was never about trying harder to sleep. It was about learning to let go. The tiredness you carried was not a flaw in you. It was a mind that had not yet been given permission to rest. A rhythm, still holding the shape of the day. Even with your eyes closed, the brain can stay awake to the world. But it can also be guided down, gently, night after night, until rest stops being something you chase and becomes something you finally allow. 100 facts ago, we stood inside a strange kind of tiredness, jhana kind, that lingers even after a full night in bed. Now we know its name. The fast, waking rhythm never fully let go, holding the brain half awake behind closed eyes. We followed that rhythm from the glare of late screens to the gentle drop of a cooling body. We watched slow waves widen the spaces between brain cells and wash the day away. What began as a question about tiredness became an answer about permission. Even with your eyes closed, the brain can stay awake to the world, still humming with the day it never set down. But it can be guided down, softly and slowly. Tonight, you are allowed to let it. If this slow hour helped the fast rhythm in your mind begin to loosen, a gentle like, subscribe, or share carries this quiet to another tired soul still lying awake, still waiting for rest to come. One quiet tap for everyone still searching for the way here. Right now, behind your closed eyes, the fast waves are letting go of their shape. Not because you asked them to, because you finally stopped feeding them. The slow rhythm is rising on its own, widening the quiet spaces in your mind, washing the long day loose and carrying it away. Let your entire being dissolve into that slow tide. You don't need to guide it down. It already knows the way, and it was only ever waiting for you to allow it. You can allow these thoughts to settle now. Like fast waves finally easing into the long, slow rhythm of the dark. Let your body grow heavy with the rest that is already rising in you. If sleep comes, let it take you to the quiet place where the day no longer asks anything of you. The Sleepy Science playlist has spent many hours in this territory, the space where the restless mind is gently taught to slow. The next hour follows the part of tonight's question. This one didn't have time to finish. What the brain does with the quiet once the fast waves have gone. That hour is waiting whenever you are ready. But if your eyes are closed, stay there. Rest well, weary one. The slowing has already begun. Where curiosity ends and sleep begins. Good night.